Hello again, this is Giovanni here at Frap Tools, and I have recently been requested to do a patch breakdown of this old video that I made almost 3 years ago. I don't keep a patch archive, so I had to rewatch it a couple of times to remember what I was actually doing. And I think that the patch mainly consists of 2 or 3 elements. The first one is a variable clock, because I was using Sapel as my Usta clock, and by moving it, I was able to make the sequence go faster or slower. This is the first element. The second element was dynamic control over a through-zero linear FM patch. So I had an envelope controlling the modulation, the FM modulation amount on the Brenso. And the other one, maybe, was using a very simple sequence on the Usta, consisting, I think, only of the notes of a pentatonic scale. So back then I had a much more compact setup. I think it was mostly the 2 bottom rows that you can see here. So we didn't have the Cunsa back then, and I didn't install Fumana on that system, even though we already had it. So I think that after we recreated the patch, it could be nice to see if we can improve it and take it a step further in 2024. Let's see. So for that kind of patch, I will start a new project here on the Usta, and right off the bat, I will patch my Sapel clock output of the yellow section or the green one, up to you, to the clock input, and I will scroll until I find the clock source option, and then I will set it to external, holding the set all button, just applying it to all the 4 tracks. I will need only one for the original patch, but we never know. So right now you can see that if I keep my ratio to 1:1 and if I push play, I will have my playhead moving exactly at the same rate of my external clock. And the response is pretty fast because all my stages have the length of just 1 time unit. So 1 clock impulse, 1 gate. This is as simple as we can play with the Usta sequencer. Then I will take my CVA output from this track here, the number 1, and I will patch it to my Brenso yellow generator. I will set the frequency to a reasonable amount, and I will keep all the modulation closed for now. And then I will just take the sine wave output and patch it to the CGM mixer. Like this. You can see that now the sequence is the frequency is super low, but something is definitely there. And right now I can already program a sequence if I want by dialing in some random values and even transposing it up by a couple of 2 or 3 octaves. But it's not quite fun, and so I will quantize my sequence to a pentatonic scale, and we can go with the minor, but I think I will stick with the major for this one. And I will make sure that maybe just the first one is a C. Of course, I haven't tuned my oscillator, but I don't think it's necessary for today. So I will play Usta. I will use C scale as a reference on the Usta, regardless of what actual pitch comes out of the Brenso. And so we are almost there. We have right now a couple of problems. The first one is, of course, that we are listening to a sine wave and we need the through-zero FM sound that we have while we do something like this. That is quite nice. But as I said, the other problem is that we don't have the dynamic articulation over this parameter, and that the sound keeps playing in a much annoying way. So we will need a gate track here over track 1, and I will patch it to this file history here. I will set the time scale to long and the behavior to transient. So whenever I play my sequence, I will fire this envelope, which I can now use to dynamically change the modulation amount. By playing with the shape, I can have a more plucked sound or a richer tone. I think I'm gonna go with an exponential decay because it is very bright and at the same time it has a more glass-like flavor that give me the name for the original video. But if I stop the sequence, it will just keep playing. So we need to solve this other issue as well. And to do that, I will take advantage of perhaps slightly unnoticed semi-normalization here on file history, which connects this output here, the same that I'm using to control the FM modulation amount, to this input here, which is the dual slew limiter input. So if I just take the slew limiter output and patch it here, you can hear that my sound now has gone quiet because I am basically integrating whatever output is coming out of here, which now is just 0 volt. So the VCA is closed. And if I play, I have a slightly slower version of this output that controls my amplitude. I can, of course, play with the gain, add some saturation if I want, but the coolest thing is that I can add some decay here and have a longer tail. So this envelope will be slower than this one because it will integrate it. But at the same time, as soon as I stop my sequence, I will have proper silence, just as if I was playing with actual notes. If I play a slower sequence, if I play with the clock, which was one of the most important features of the original patch, I can have more overlapping notes as I go faster and more sparse, and I can better appreciate the tail as I go slower. Of course, another crucial component of this patch was the external effect. So I will add a reverb. Let's try to find a mild setting. Something like this. But I think that in the original patch, we had a randomization over the USTA sequencer, and here is how it works. So instead of using a pre-programmed sequence, I can set all my stages to play just a C, like this. And I can set my variation index to the maximum level for all the stages and my variation range high as well. And you will hear that USTA will replace those C that I entered with random notes. Both higher and lower than the C that I choose. But all of them are quantized to the pentatonic scale. I can play with the green oscillator frequency to find the most glass-like frequency that I like. I think I might reduce the variation range and perhaps transpose the whole patch an octave higher. Very nice. And I think that this is pretty much it. Now let's see if and how we can take it further. So the first thing that comes to mind is the Cunsa filter. So instead of relying on Brenso's trusty VCA, I will patch my sine wave to the first input of the Cunsa filter. And I will take the 12 dB per octave low pass output and patch this one to my CGM mixer. I will close it. I will set the resonance and the character to very conservative setting, both of them around 9 o'clock. And I will take my, I might start with the Falistri output like this one, the attenuated output, and patch it here to the ping input. So we will create a more natural decay curve over the sound, and it sounds like this. You can pump it up a little bit through the character knob and the input VCA. And I set this control here to control both the cutoff frequency and the amplitude. So as the cutoff frequency goes down, so will do the amplitude of our sound. And through this knob here, I can control the brightness of my sound, maxed out or slightly mellower. And I can also choose to control the decay like this, with a more natural kind of tone, especially at slower rates. If I want, I can add a bit of Q, but I don't like it very much with this kind of sound because we are already playing with sine waves in our root note. So this might add a bit of extra harmonic content, which is not desirable. Another way to take this patch a bit further is to bring in another voice. And so I set this Falistri to a fast time scale and a loop behavior, so it will act as an oscillator. And I will patch the CVA of track 2 to its volt per octave input. Now, my track 2 consists of 3 stages only, and they are playing a C, a G, and let's go with a D. Or we can change, but they last for 16 time unit. So every stage of track 2 will last as one complete cycle of track 1. And I can monitor my filter 2 output from here. And of course I will patch the output from here. It sounds something like this. The cool thing is that if I reduce the amplitude, the cutoff frequency of this filter, I can control it with the same envelope that I pass here because of Cunsa's semi-normalizations. And so I will have this kind of a harmony. But I can add the final touch to this patch by creating a random gate track over track 1. So I will set my variation range to the maximum level and my variation index to 2, for example. And so I will obtain some random gates over my gate B track output that I can use to ping this filter here. And it will just bring in some of the second voice notes. I can pan pot them a little bit. And so I think that we can cap it here for today. This was the recreation of the Glass Sound real video that I posted many years ago. If you are interested in patch breakdown videos like this one, of videos that I made even years ago, just let me know in the comments below. I read all of them, and if I can, I'll be happy to answer your requests. I hope you found this one useful for now, and I will see you next time with more ideas.